Hi, welcome to another craft video from the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. I'm Cheryl and I'm in charge of the craft kits at the main library. And today's video is to accompany a kit that we'll be giving out starting October 15th, 2024. Now, if you don't have the kit or you're watching this later on our YouTube channel, I'll tell you all the supplies that you need to make this project if you need to purchase your own. So what we're making today is this cute little spooky season Halloween little apothecary jar. And it's made from just a simple plastic jar with a lid. And it's super easy to make. So what you'll need to have in the kit, or what you'll purchase if you don't have the kit, is the first thing you'll need is some sort of jar with a lid. I thought this one looked suitably apothecary-ish. It's actually meant for storing cotton balls and things in your bathroom or on a counter. Then we'll have paint. We have black paint, which we're going to use to coat the entire thing, and then accent color of either silver or gold metallic. And then we have Mod Podge, the matte kind, not the gloss kind. This is what we're going to be used to glue on the label and seal it. And speaking of which, you'll have 3 pages of Halloween labels for your jar for you to pick from. We actually got those from Adobe because our library has an account with Adobe, so we license them. But if you are purchasing these items yourself, then what you can do is go into the internet and put in Halloween apothecary jar labels, and you can find images that you can print out. We'll also have a brush to brush on the paint and the glue. You may have a foam brush, you may have a flat brush, but you'll have some sort of brush. And then you will have a couple of plastic spiders and a little tube of E6000 glue. Now when you're ready to use this glue, I've already opened this one, but the one you'll receive will have a seal, a metal seal here. You will take the lid, and there's a little puncture tool on the back. You'll turn it around and puncture the seal before you'll use it. The other thing you will need to provide is you will need to provide a pair of scissors in order to cut out your label. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is lay down a base color of black all over. If you're using the foam brush, you can actually pour this out onto a paper plate, so it's easier to use the foam brush, but I usually just dip the corner down in. Now, because this jar is a very smooth plastic, the paint will not stick in a full coat right away. You may have to do 2 coats. Also, you may just leave it not quite completely covered. That's perfectly fine too. It still gives a suitable spookiness to it. Now, if you want the paint to stick a little bit better, before you paint it, you could actually scuff up the smoothness of the plastic with just a piece of sandpaper and just rub it all over all of it to kind of give it, to cut down on the smoothness and give it more of a grippy surface. You're certainly welcome to do that, because this is just a Halloween decoration and I'm not doing anything long term, I'm going to go ahead and just use it like it is. And then I'm going to do this whole thing as well. Now you're welcome to paint the circle or the little knob thing on top, or you're welcome to leave it clear if you think it looks more like a, because it can look kind of like a crystal ball If you like that kind of look, you're certainly welcome to leave the ball clear. Now, when you paint this part, you'll want to paint the top. Now you'll notice it has a little narrower part. That's the part that sits down inside the jar. Don't paint that part. Just paint the top outermost part. Okay, I'm going to set these aside to dry before I put on the second coat. Okay, this is not completely dry yet, but I think it's good enough to do a little bit of a second coat. We'll try. So when you're painting this, the second coat, if you paint it up and down, it will leave it streaky. So you'll have that streak look. You can also texture it by just tapping it like this in different directions. And if you have one of the brushes, you can still do the same thing like this. It just depends on what surface texture you like. So here's what that looks like, and it'll dry matte, or you can leave it straight up and down if you like it to look like, maybe that'll make it look more like a black wood because of the streaks. I think I'm going to texture it, so I'm just going to tap it all over. All right, now I'm going to set this aside to dry completely, probably about 15-20 minutes, and I'm going to wash my hands and wash my brush out, and I'll be back when that step is done. All right, so I've let it dry for about 20 minutes, and it's pretty much dry to the touch. So now what I'm going to do is I cut out the label that I decided I wanted to use. Now I'm going to kind of distress it and make it look old and weathered a little bit. So what I'm going to do is crumple this up. And kind of crumple. Try not to rip it too badly, but it's okay if the edges get a little bit torn. If you have an emery board or some sandpaper, you could even scuff it up a little bit that way. So now that looks suitably old and weathered. So now I'm going to open up the white one I've got here. So I'm going to just put a very thin layer. Now with E6000 glue, it's best to do very thin layers. Okay. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to add another very thin layer across the top and around the edges to seal down the edges. Whoops, and I've put that upside down. And I'm going to let that dry until it turns clear and dry to the touch. Meanwhile, I'm going to add a couple of little spiders to the lid. I like to do this with the lid on. I'm going to take my E6000 glue, and I've already broken the seal, and I'm just going to put a good glob of the glue right down the middle and then position it where I want it. do this one too. And I'm going to put this just like that. I can let that dry before I go into the next step, or I can go straight to the next step if I'm impatient. So the next step is going to be the metallic paint. And we're going to be doing something we call dry brushing with the metallic paint. I'm just going to take a little piece of paper. I'm going to do a little bit, and I'm going to get most of the paint off. So there's only a little bit. And then I'm just going to lightly kind of brush, just kind of here and there. The object is not to completely paint it. The object is to highlight the things. And I like to do the spiders too, so that they don't blend into the background. But you don't want to paint it completely gold. You just want some little, I just do some little streaks here and there, just so that it kind of looks older and a little more weathered. And you can do this before you put on the spiders. It might actually be a little bit easier on you. Or you can glue the spiders on and then wait till it's completely dry. But I don't have time to do that because I'm demonstrating. So you see, that doesn't add a lot of color, but it does make it look kind of aged and old-fashioned, and you can even put a little bit on there. And if I want to make the label even more weathered, kind of like it's been sitting around and gotten all sorts of crud on it over the years, I can add just a little bit of black and do a little bit of dry brushing kind of thing on there too, and just kind of add some little smears here and there so that it just looks a little bit even older. But you don't want to go too overboard with that. I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to let this dry completely for at least several hours. That E6000 glue that we use to glue on the spiders takes a little while to dry. It takes a little while to cure and do its thing till it's rock solid. All right. And then after it's dry, then it'll be ready to be a nice little prop. You can buy these in sets of different sizes, that you can do a whole set of these. If you buy the plastic jars, you can maybe find ones with stems on them, like to set them down. If you have like a candlestick, you can actually use the E6000. If you've got like a short little wooden or glass candlestick, you can actually use the E6000 to glue the candlestick onto the bottom here to create like a little pedestal. And then you're all set for your spooky season. Thanks for viewing another craft video from Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. I'll see you next time. Bye.